I think one of the hottest politicians in the United States of America, and has become a friend of mine, Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson. Thank you, Mark. This is Martin Luther King on steroids, okay? Now, I told that to Mark. I said, I think you're better than Martin Luther King. I think you are Martin Luther King times 2. I said to this man, and when he endorsed me, he gave a speech, and I said, you are Dr. Martin Luther King on steroids. That's how good you are. You are unbelievable as a speaker. And he got up, and he's doing fantastically well in North Carolina, and I think he's going to be the next governor of North Carolina, Mark Robinson.
Hi again, everybody. It is 5 o'clock now in New York. I'm Alicia Menendez in this Friday for my friend Nicole Wallace. That sound you hear, it is just the low rumble of an entire political apparatus acting with new purpose. Their mission to get you to see the video we just watched over and over and over again. As we speak, Democrats are mustering their messaging might to make a connection in voters' minds to link Donald Trump and Mark Robinson, his choice for North Carolina governor. Now, we won't belabor the specifics of the salacious accusations surrounding Robinson this afternoon, other than to say a CNN report detailed a number of racist and sexually explicit messages posted on a porn site years before he entered politics. One post attributed to Robinson from 2010 is a declaration, quote, I'm a black Nazi. Another post, quote, slavery is not bad. And then there's the story attributed to Robinson, in which he recounts peeping on naked women when he was a teenager. We should note here, NBC News has not yet verified the authenticity of these messages. CNN's reporting suggests the username traces back to other similar ones across a number of social media platforms. And certain posts contain details that matched up with Robinson's personal life. And for his part, Robinson and his team, they are denying any of these posts came from him and that he never created or used such an account. Here's Robinson's response.
Let me reassure you, the things that you will see in that story, those are not the words of Mark Robinson. You know my words, you know my character, and you know that I have been completely transparent in this race and before. Clarence Thomas famously once said he was the victim of a high-tech lynching. Well, it looks like Mark Robinson is too, by a man who refuses to stand on stage and debate me about the real issues that face you. Instead, they want to focus on salacious tabloid lies. We're not going to let them do that. We are staying in this race. We are in it to win it.
We do know his words, and we will get to that in just a second. But a spokesperson for North Carolina's Board of Elections confirmed to NBC News this afternoon the deadline for Robinson to submit a written request to withdraw from this race has now passed. Lieutenant Governor submitted no such paperwork, so this race, as it stands, is on. The North Carolina Republican Party, they are standing by Robinson. The Trump campaign, they are too, at least to some degree, suggesting North Carolina is a vital part of the campaign without ever mentioning Robinson's name. But as we mentioned, Democrats are trying to make that connection in voters' minds. Fewer than 24 hours after the story broke, the DNC announcing plans to launch an ad blitz nearly a dozen billboards across North Carolina. And the Harris-Walz campaign released a brand new video of their own just this afternoon. Take a look.
And he's been an unbelievable Lieutenant Governor, Mark Robinson.
For me, there is no compromise on abortion.
I think you're better than Martin Luther King.
We could pass a bill say you can't have an abortion in North Carolina for any reason.
Abortion in this country, it's about killing a child because you aren't responsible enough to keep your skirt down.
I've been with him a lot. I've gotten to know him, and he's outstanding.
Donald Trump and Mark Robinson. They're both wrong for North Carolina.
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
Worth underscoring. That ad we all just watched highlighted comments made by Robinson in public. Remember, Robinson's name will be right there with Donald Trump's on the ballot in North Carolina this election day. And given just how essential that state is for both campaigns, any change to the status quo could tip the scales in that state and, by extension, the race for president. And that is where we start this hour with NBC News correspondent Antonia Hilton for us in Raleigh, North Carolina. Antonia, the Robinson campaign, the Trump campaign, they seem to think they can just hold on tight, let this all pass. Can they?
Well, that's the central question right now. And as you mentioned a moment ago, the Robinson campaign, because they missed that 11:59 deadline, in a way, that's their statement. They're in this. There is no change to be made at this point. We saw the North Carolina GOP release a statement saying that they're essentially standing by their man. The Trump campaign, though, is a whole different ballgame because they're trying to walk this tightrope right now. We just got new NBC News reporting. Our colleague Joshua Burns has been talking to people all afternoon. And what they've found is that there are allies, both here locally in the North Carolina delegation and in the Trump campaign, who are pushing that campaign to actually rescind the endorsement and rethink that relationship here. However, at least at this point, Trump has not wanted to do so. He certainly hasn't taken that step yet, but he is going to be here campaigning tomorrow. And what we do know is Robinson is not going to be on that stage. So there's this sort of effort to not really comment on the contents of what has been said, but so still maintain some of that relationship, but try to avoid allowing Robinson and this scandal to potentially drag down the entire Republican ticket. That is certainly what Democrats are hoping is about to happen, and it is what Republicans are going to try to avoid, Alicia.
That is a delicate two-step for even the most seasoned answer, so we will see just how that goes. Antonia, it strikes me that there was a press conference earlier this afternoon. North Carolina's current governor, Roy Cooper, he's a Democrat. He made the case that a lot of Robinson's most radical comments, they were made right out in public. Just fill in some of that background for us.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk to some of the voters and political operatives here, I mean, I was here in 2022 covering the midterms. People talked about Mark Robinson back then, too. There is a long history of comments here. I mean, one of the ones that I've heard from voters that's come up time and time again is a time in which he referenced the Holocaust and seemed to suggest that it was hogwash, that he was casting doubt on some facts, some realities of the violence of how Jewish people were treated by Nazis. And, for those voters who I spoke to today, that therefore makes it not so hard for them to leap to the conclusion that perhaps he would have commented something similar on online forums, as CNN has reported. Then I've spoken to some Republican voters, though, who say that these are all allegations, that they don't really know what is true, what is not true, and so they plan still to vote for him. What's interesting about this state, though, it has one of the highest numbers of independent voters and moderates, people who do split ticket voting or who change their party cycle after cycle. And so Robinson really has the potential to turn those people off. They are the kind of voters who are consistently trying to get the rhetoric turned down in this country. They don't like comments like that. They certainly aren't comfortable with some of the anti-Semitic and Islamophobic things that he's both said on the record or online in the past, or possibly in these social media posts found by CNN. And so those are the voters that may be turned off here, and that the Harris campaign is going to aggressively go after here as they try to chart their path to victory in a state that, over the last 11 cycles, I think, has only gone for a Democrat once.
Antonia Hilton, live for us in Raleigh, North Carolina. Antonia, thank you for your reporting. Let's bring into our conversation former RNC spokesman and host of the Bulwark podcast, Tim Miller, plus distinguished political scholar and professor at Princeton University, Eddie Glaude, and here at the table, Democratic strategist and professor at Columbia University, Basil Smythler. Tim, when this is all over, when this is all over, we're going to do a supercut of me saying to you, well, have we found the bottom? Is this the new low? Is this it? And you just say, I don't know where the bottom is anymore, that they saw everything he said in public. They didn't walk away from him. There's now this reporting, and he's still their guy.
Yeah, it's hard to get lower than sticking with your man when he says he's pro-slavery on a porn message board. But that is where we are. And this, I think, we can talk about this race and Mark Robinson specifically in a second. But I do think that this is just such a damning example of just the rot of the Republican Party and what the Republican voters are looking for. I mean, if you set up a system where you're saying, I want you to apply for a job. I want you to apply to be the Republican nominee for governor or Senate or president. And what we're looking for on your resume is is how willing are you to suck up to a con man and a liar and Donald Trump? How shameful will you be in sucking up to this person? And the second thing we're looking for is how mean and cruel will you be to liberals and marginalized people? And that's all we're looking for. We're just looking for people that will suck up to a con man and will be mean to liberals. Well, the types of people that are going to submit their resume are Mark Robinson and Herschel Walker and Carrie Lake and Doug Mastriano. You're going to get sociopaths that apply. Like, if you're no longer looking for people that, ran a business or served in the military or served their community, like the types of things we used to look for in public service that the Democrats still look for in their public servants. If you're not looking for those attributes, if you're looking for who can suck up to Trump and who can be mean to Democrats, you're going to get people like Mark Robinson, who apparently spent like most of his adult life either on a message board on a porn site, posting racist and gross stuff, or inside a porn store, eating a pizza in the back room, where apparently he was 5 nights a week at times. And it's hard to know how this guy found time to go to like the bank or do anything. Maybe he didn't, because he also went bankrupt several times. So and this is the type of person you wouldn't hire to run like a fast food restaurant. The idea that he would be governor of one of the biggest states in the country is insane. The idea that he'd have voters that want him to be governor is just preposterous. But we got here because we're at the 9-year mark of this Trump era where what the voters have incentivized are all these wrong attributes.